what is up everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. And today guys, we are here to look at another Scream Factory title and review it. And that is Pumpkinhead on 4K. I feel like I've been knocking out these Scream Factory reviews. I just did Night of the Demons on 4K. Scream Factory to me though guys, they are on a roll right now. They're just knocking it out of the park. But did they continue their streak with Pumpkinhead on 4K? We're going to find out in this video here today. But before we get into it, like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We talk about physical media on this channel, Blu-rays, 4Ks, only the movies that you love, all that stuff there behind me every single day. So if you like that kind of thing, hit the subscribe button and then comment down below, guys. Have you seen Pumpkinhead? Is this one of your favorite 80s horror movies? Let me know in that comment section below. Okay, let's go ahead and get into it, guys. Pumpkinhead on 4K. I do like talking about the movie itself first, and then we'll get into the 4K picture quality. Then we'll talk about the sound and the special features and all that stuff. So I was excited to get this released because before this 4K, the only edition of Pumpkinhead that I had in the collection was this DVD edition that I got years ago from the Walmart dump bin. I think I paid like $3.74 or $3.75 for this back in the day. So I never bought the Blu-ray because there was a Scream Factory Blu-ray that came out in 2014. Then there was a Steelbook that came out in 2020 that was a new 4K scan. And now in 2023, they are releasing the 4K standard edition, and there's also a Best Buy exclusive Steelbook as well. So there are now 4 editions that you can purchase of Pumpkinhead from Scream Factory, 2 Steelbooks and 2 regular editions, 1 regular Blu-ray and then the 4K. And the 4K Blu-ray is actually in this set that they released in that Steelbook back in 2020. But before we get into talking about the picture quality, guys, and the special features, and I'll do a little bit of an unboxing here as well and talk about the audio, I do want to talk about the actual film itself because Pumpkinhead is a movie that I have been watching since I was a kid. I remember renting this at the video store when I was a very small kid, and it honestly freaked me out when I was a kid. I remember being the most freaked out by the witch in the movie, but the actual creature itself was very scary. Just my memory of that creature walking through the darkness in the woods at night, like that has always stuck with me. I bought this DVD though back in, I think 2016, 2017. I rewatched it for probably the first time in maybe 10 to 15 years. And I don't know, it didn't live up to my memory. I still liked it, but it wasn't as scary as I remembered it. But again, I was watching on DVD, the quality was not there. So did my experience with Pumpkinhead improve with the 4K? I'd say so. My feelings are largely the same. I feel like this is a movie. This is directed by Stan Winston, who, if you don't know who that is, this is a special effects guru juggernaut. Like he worked on Aliens, he worked on Jurassic Park. He was primarily a special effects guy, but he did also direct some films, and Pumpkinhead was one of those films. And I feel like this is a movie just to showcase a grand Stan Winston created creature. And I feel like this movie they used as kind of a vehicle to do that. So the creature really takes center stage here, and I feel like the story is kind of in the background a little bit. The story's fine for what it is. It kind of reminds me of Pet Sematary. You know, you have Lance Hendrickson, his kid gets run over by a motorcycle. I almost said motorcycle gang. It's just a group of kids and they're riding dirt bikes, and an accident happens with his kid. And he wants to bring his kid back to life. He's heard about this witch. He kind of grew up with the legend of this witch. He takes his son to her, but she says she can't bring him back to life. She can avenge him though by conjuring this Pumpkinhead creature to exact revenge on his enemies, the people that wronged him, the people that took his son out. So Lance Hendrickson's character does that, which I don't even know his name in the movie. He does that, and then she brings Pumpkinhead to life, and then the Pumpkinhead kind of goes after the kids that took out his kid. So the story, I like the story, but it feels very basic and generic and only there to get to the Pumpkinhead showcase centerpiece by the time we get to the last act of this film, which that's another thing with this movie. It's not even 90 minutes long. It's a very short movie. But it takes a good 45 to 50 minutes before we see the actual Pumpkinhead. So if your story's not very strong and your characters aren't very strong, I love Lance Henriksen. I love him. I think he's great. but his character's not the strongest in this movie, and all the teen characters, like, I just don't care about them. You know, they have all this like interpersonal drama and stuff that's going on because they hit a kid and one of them tries to run. So there's all that stuff that I'm just not interested in, and all that's going on within like the first 45 to 50 minutes. So by the time we get to the third act is great, and everything that happens in the third act with Pumpkinhead is completely awesome, but everything getting to that point, it just feels like filler. So it takes too long to get to that showcase Pumpkinhead sequence. But other than that, I enjoy the movie, but I still don't think it's an all-time horror classic, if that makes any sense. Now, getting into the 4K transfer here, this is a native 4K restoration. It has Dolby Vision, it has HDR10. We talked about Scream Factory and just the role they've been on this year. I just talked about Night of the Demons on 4K. That looks so freaking good. Night of the Comet on 4K, The Burning. Was this up to that level? I didn't think, not quite, not to me. It still looked damn good, and definitely the best this movie has ever looked and will ever look. You know, that Dolby Vision, that HDR, I'm just loving this trend of Dolby Vision and everything now, it feels like, because it just enhances those colors so much. So, you know, the movie looked great. It looked great across the board, but there were some parts that I just didn't think were fully restored. They just didn't look the best. And that's not always Scream Factory or whoever's doing the restoration's fault. It's just the materials that they're working with. But some of the sequences, though, at night were a little bit... I don't dislike grain. Don't take that as me disliking grain. But with the grain and some of those nighttime sequences, some of them look great. Very clear. You can just make everything out. Some of them were a little fuzzy when you're trying to make stuff out. So I still think it looks damn good. I think all the daytime stuff in the beginning of this movie, the first 20 minutes, all that stuff, you know, where they're riding the motorbikes in the mountains and the desert background, all that stuff looks fantastic. Looks freaking spectacular. Where it's truly shined to me was the sequence where Lance Henriksen meets the witch for the first time and he brings his son to her. And just that room that he walks into, it's all lit with the fire, and you see the witch and the fire's lighting her face, and those bright oranges, those deep reddish orange colors that are kind of reflecting off of her wrinkled face. And they show that up close, and that just looks spectacular. But the whole room lit with the fire just looks great with that Dolby Vision and HDR. And just the wrinkles, you could just make out every single detail of her face. Facial definition in this movie across the board was spectacular. Some of those close-ups on the faces, you can make out every detail. All the outfits looked really good. All the colors and all that stuff looked great. And some of the nighttime sequences, like I said, some of them were a little hard to make out, but some of them looked great. And the Pumpkinhead himself, like when he comes out and he's standing there in all of his glory and he's snarling and he's growling at people, he looks absolutely fantastic. Nasty as hell. His skin's like glistening. He's glowing. He's got some of that wet slimy stuff all over his face, and you can just see his claws and stuff and his tail, and such a great design. Like Stan Winston, you know, definitely, he worked on Aliens. That influence was definitely felt in this movie. And I think this came out in 1988, so this was only 2 years removed from Aliens. But you could definitely see the makings of a legendary special effects artist at work in this movie. This is a great model. It's a great creature design. And yeah, it's legendary. I think this movie that is the Pumpkinhead, like the actual creature, like that's what you're watching this movie for, because that is the standout centerpiece of this film, and it looks spectacular in 4K. Getting into the sound here, you have the 5.1 and you have the 2.0. I thought the sound was incredible in this, just incredible. Like that whole third act with the Pumpkinhead snarling, and you could just hear that like snake-like hiss. I don't know exactly what you call that, but it's like the classic alien-like hiss sound. Clicking hiss sound. I remember like Independence Day had it when he was like breaking out of the room and stuff, and you could hear him. But it's just this classic like sound, like shh, and you could hear it, but I could feel that like all around me, and it's just the thunder's crashing and the score's blaring, and you just hear the Pumpkinhead coming, the crashing and everything, and it sounds fantastic. Sound-wise, especially in the third act of this film where the Pumpkinhead is just going nuts on everybody, it sounds incredible, so I can't say enough good things about the sound. Getting into the packaging here real quick. I like the slipcover, but I did point this out in my unboxing. This is not the original theatrical poster. So this is breaking Scream Factory's rules of the new 4K re-releases are supposed to have the original poster artwork with a 4K banner at the top. That is not the case with this release right here. This is another poster. I prefer this, you know, versus the original theatrical poster. I think that's kind of a lame poster if you ask me. So I prefer this. I'm glad they went with this, and maybe that's why they did, but it just breaks up the consistency. So I can see some people being upset with that. I think it would have been cool if they would have, I'll go ahead and take it out of the slipcover right here, if they would have made it, you know, the reversible cover art or something, like you flip it. But they didn't even bother to do that. I just think that that would have been something cool they could have done to make up for it. But look on the inside, you got some disc art there, which is pretty cool. You got that 4K, you got that Blu-ray, and I'll show you the back right there. We'll get into the special features here in a second, but it shows everything that is in this release. You got the synopsis, you got some cool looks at the Pumpkinhead himself right there. You got all the specs down there at the bottom. So packaging wise, look, I'm just all in on collecting the slipcover editions for the Scream Factory releases. That's why I didn't get the Steelbook. The Steelbook looks amazing. I kind of want to double tip and get that too. But I'm showing restraint, guys. I'm really trying to show restraint with Pumpkinhead on 4K. And getting into the special features themselves, you know, they did a bunch of special features for Pumpkinhead back in 2014 when they did the Blu-ray. They didn't add anything new here, but to be honest, it would have been nice. Look, we just talked about it with Night of the Demons on 4K. They added in a couple of new special features. It would have been nice to give us a couple of new special features here. But, you know, that being said, all the special features that they released back in 2014 are great, and there's tons of them. There's a 6-part documentary on the making of Pumpkinhead. It's over an hour long. And then there's tons of interviews with the actors, with the co-writer, and just all kinds of stuff, guys. You got a tribute to Stan Winston, because unfortunately he's no longer with us. You got a really cool one, Demonic Toys, a look at the creation of the Pumpkinhead action figure, which is a pretty cool one as well. So just tons of great features. You got an audio commentary here as well, but nothing's new. It's all the same stuff that came out in 2014 that was re-released in 2020, and now it's being re-released again in 2023. So I'm gonna knock it a little bit, because I keep saying, guys, if you're gonna do these re-releases, make it worth our while. You know, some people, the 4K upgrade it just isn't enough. We need something else to entice us. So give us a couple of new special features. That's why I was so blown away by that Night of the Demons 4K, because they added in all those new special features, and they don't usually do that. So start trending that way, Scream Factory, and adding in more features. I think it would make it more worth it for us to, you know, want to upgrade these releases. But look, guys, at the end of the day, this was definitely a hell of an upgrade over this DVD that I have in the collection. So a really great 4K. The movie's super fun. It's definitely a B-movie creature feature from the 80s. Don't go into it expecting a horror masterpiece or a classic, but it's super fun, and I do recommend the movie, recommend the 4K from Scream Factory. I will link it down below in the description if you want to purchase it based on my recommendation today. But thank y'all for watching my review, my 4K review of Pumpkinhead. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave me a comment down below what you think about this 4K and this movie, and then turn on those bell notifications for all future videos, and follow me on all my social media accounts. Those links are down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.